We have here verse 39 of the 7th chapter of the Gospel of John. Jesus addressing the crowds and especially the religious leaders who have been summoned into his presence because he more or less interrupted the procedure of things during the Feast of Tabernacles. He stands up and cries out on the great day, the last day of that feast, the day in which water plays prominently in the symbolism, in the sacramental procedures of the day, and says if anyone is really thirsty, they should come to him. And if they come to him and place their faith in him, he will place in them springs of living water, water that will leave them in such a situation that they'll never be thirsty again. Of course, an echo of what he had said to the woman at the well earlier in this same gospel. Well, he now has made that declaration, and we can have some idea how shocked the people were that heard it. But John, of course, adds a parenthetical remark here to more or less explain what's going on. So we view this verse 39 as something of John's additional comment, tuto. This is the neuter, accusative, demonstrative pronoun. So this, it's accusative, so it's the direct object of apen. He said this, the postpositive da. So lego, I say, this is the third person singular aorist active indicative. He said this. Peri, preposition, takes the genitive, as we have here, to pneumatos. He said this, peri, the spirit, the pneumatos, which, relative pronoun, is functioning as a singular accusative neuter pronoun here. So he said this concerning the spirit, which emelon, this is the third person plural, imperfect active indicative of melo, which means generally I am about, as in I am about to do something, normally takes the infinitive as we have it here. So this is the third person plural, which they were about. Lambanein, this is the infinitive of lambano, I receive. This is the present infinitive, so they were about to receive. And who are they? The subject of this verb is hoi pistusantes. This is the participle, it's the masculine plural of the participle pistuo, I believe. So the having believed ones would be the idea. So putting it together, he said this concerning the Spirit, which the having believed ones were about to receive. The Spirit that those who had believed in him were going to receive, eis auton, the idea of believing in him, because gar upo, not yet, ein, it was the Spirit. The Spirit was not yet. This, of course, has led some people into some somewhat edgy understandings theologically. It's not to say that the Spirit did not yet exist, as some have tried to construe it, but there's a sense in which the outpouring of the Spirit was going to so much more dramatically exceed anything that had taken place in the past that it could actually be said by way of something of a hyperbole that the Spirit had not even it hadn't even been yet, you might say, in sharp contrast to what had been the case in the past. Of course, we have the Spirit of the Lord functioning actively in the Old Testament and so on, even in the New Testament, in the conception of Christ and his birth and so on. We have plenty of references to the Spirit, but John is wanting to set in contrast the remarkable sense in which there will be such an increase in the work of the Spirit among those who believe in him in the days that would come. What's going to mark the difference? It's going to be, as John points out here, because Jesus, hoti Jesus, because Jesus udepo. This is really the same idea as here, not yet, but the slightly different form of it means not even yet, as if to add a little bit of a different emphasis to it, a doxasthon. So here we have the third person singular aorist passive indicative from doxazo. It means to glorify. This means to be glorified. So not yet had Jesus been glorified, and of course the glorifying of Christ, the ascension of Christ, the coronation of Christ, the installation of Christ on his throne, were all of those things that would usher in a time of a immensely better outpouring of God's Spirit, which is precisely what we see in the New Testament, especially demarcated on the day of Pentecost, but of course this has been the rich treasure of the Christian movement ever since.